Daily Beats Productions. Daily Beats Productions. You are listening to Daily Beats. Daily Beats Productions. Daily Beats Productions. You are listening to Daily Beats. Daily Beats Productions. You are listening to Daily Beats. Daily Beats Productions. Daily Beats Productions. Daily Beats Productions. You are listening to Daily Beats. Daily Beats Productions.
What's up, YouTube? My name is Tiago Duarte, and welcome to another live stream here at Daily Beats. This is the producer show where I take all of your questions and answer them here in video so that I can help you speed up your learning process so that you become better producers faster. That's the main goal of the channel, and that's what I try to achieve here with this channel. If you have any questions, you can leave them in the chat. You can also leave the questions in the videos on the YouTube channel, YouTube videos, in the comments. You can leave questions there, and also you can subscribe to the newsletter where I post all of where I send you a form where you can post all of your questions, and those questions will have higher priority. So let me know if you are here in the chat. Just say hi so that I know you are watching. Let me know what questions you have, if you enjoy it or not. Let's communicate so that I can serve you better. Okay, I think those are the announcements. Also, I will be doing these live streams every Saturday. Unfortunately, until the end of the year, I will not probably do any more live streams. That was hard to say. The thing is that next Saturday I'm flying to Portugal. That's on the 18th. Then on the 25th it's Christmas, so I'm not going to do a live stream there. Then it's on the first year of January, so it's New Year, so I'm not going to do a live stream there. Maybe on the 8th. Let's see how it goes. And I'm flying to Germany back on the 9th. So let's see how it goes, and I will let you know. Okay, so let's go ahead and start with the questions that I have here prepared, and I have 6 or 7 questions. Let's see if I can go through all of them this live stream. So let's start. Let me change this to YouTube so that I can show you what is going to happen now. So the question is, how does the Waves L1 limiter work? So I have a bunch of Waves plugins, and I really love Waves plugins, even though I don't like too much the subscription module they have, or not the subscription or annual module they have. Is like, if you want new updates or bug fixes, you have to pay, and I think that's not a good thing. Especially when you have like FL Studio that is a free lifetime updates. So it's kind of, I don't know. But the plugins are cheap, and you can buy them once and use them forever. And you don't have to necessarily upgrade every year. You can take like 5 years to upgrade, and that's okay. I have here a bunch of plugins, as you can see. I have a lot of dynamics plugins. I use the R compressor for my mixes, and I use it a lot. I use the C4. I also like the H comp, and I use the L1 and L1 Ultra Maximizer a lot. So let's go through all of these two here, and in comparison to the limiters that we have in FL Studio, let's open up also the Fruity limiter. So this is the limiter that we have in FL Studio, which is also a good plugin. I enjoy this plugin, even though I don't use it too much. I kind of like the Waves plugins. I don't know. Maybe it's just my perception, but yeah, you can also use this with the Fruity limiter. It's also a good plugin, and it's also a compressor or a limiter. You can use one of each. The thing is that sometimes it's hard to see how much reduction we get with this plugin. That's why I tend to not use it too much. But yeah, let's see here in these two, the maximizer and the limiter and the ultra maximizer. So in terms of threshold, ceiling, release, and auto release, these are the same here. The ultra maximizer just adds the input side and some quantization options here on the side. And as you can see, these are pretty much the same. At least this part here, it's the same. So I'm going to just use the Ultra Maximizer to explain the parameters here. So we have here input and input knobs. And as you can see, if I click on link, they both go up and down. So it links one and another. If I do something like this and I do link, they move with the difference that I set up, as you can see. So you can pretty much do changes between one and the other. So you can change the input signal and they go from one to the other. So I have here a comment from the Beast. Yo, welcome to the chat and welcome to the live stream. Nice to have you here. Then we have the threshold. The threshold basically works as a normal compressor. The threshold is the same parameter. So it will tell you when you start to see compression. So if I bring, let me find here a track. I was listening to this track here. This was the track that I was listening before. And if I start to bring the threshold, I don't know. Okay, so I have to put this on track 1. That's when I put the limiters. Yes. Okay. So you can see now that we have now the meters going up and down. And I can do the same thing with the link. So if I start linking all of them down, what is happening is that both the threshold and this output ceiling, they are going down. And as you can see, this is giving me a lot of reduction, which might be what I want, might not be. So basically the output ceiling just tells me what dB value would be the maximum dB value. So if I put this at -1, this would be -1 dB maximum of the volume. If I start increasing or decreasing the threshold until I see the level there, the gain will start to rise. And whenever I reach a point where the input level is higher than the threshold, then we get some compression here, some reduction of the gain. And the output ceiling tells me how much or what dB it will be the maximum value of the signal. In this case, -1 dB. If I wanted -2 dB, then this will not go past 2 dB. And even if I crank this, you see we have a lot of reduction, but this does not go above -2 dB, you know? And this is the point of the threshold. You have to be careful when you reduce the threshold, because then you can get a lot of distortion and might not be the best thing. Okay, then we have two other knobs, which is release and auto release. And let me just see something here. Okay, so the release just sets the limiter release time. And as you can see, I can change the value, make it faster, make it slower, go maximum of 1 second. This is in milliseconds. So 100 milliseconds is 1 second. There's another knob here that's the knob that I like to leave. It is the auto release. And this auto release dynamically chooses the optimum release value for a wide ranging of the input. It reacts a little bit like the human here expects, and can produce increased RMS levels with greater qualities or clarity. So I really like to leave this in auto release. Just leave the tool to do the auto release, because it tries to mimic what the human here expects based on the input volume level. So that's this grayish part. Then we have this quantization. And as you can see, we can define the number of bits. So we can have, let me put this a little bit lower. We can have no quantization. We can have 24, 20, 16, 12, and 8 bits. And you will hear that if I have this at 8 bit, we lose a little bit of the quality of the signal. Not a little bit, a lot. We lose a lot of the quality of the signal. So if I'm doing lo-fi, I might go for 12 and 8. But if I go for CD quality, I might go with 16. But nowadays streaming, I either go for 24 or none at all. Then we have here Ether, and we have several modes like T1 and T2. And the T1 yields the least distortion or the lowest distortion, which is greater linearity. And this one, the T2, yields lower Ether level. So if you want a more linear, a more lower distortion with your dithering, you should go for T1. Then we have here the shaping, and normal and ultra are recommended for optimal results with type 1. So if you want, this is ultra and moderate. So these two here would be perfect for T1. Yeah, so this is the ones that are better for T1. And again, this one yields a higher level of distortion. So if you go for lo-fi, maybe you should go for this one and for a normal shaping. And then we have here the domain, and the domain basically just tells us that we have digital, analog, and true peak. So digital domain tells us that absolutely no samples will be above the output ceiling. So if you really want like minus 2 dBs maximum, then you would go for digital, because this will make the plugin really clip everything up to minus 2.0 dBs or whatever you have here in the output ceiling. If you want more control over the peak that occurs in both the analog and digital domains, then you go for analog domain here. And there are several reasons why you would go for this one, but again, maybe you should read the manual for more in-depth information, because I don't have all the information. And then we have here true peak, which is a level, is a measure of intersample peaks that do not register in the sample data but may occur during reproduction of the digital signal. So this is a little bit more complex. So if you really want to get to know the modes, then you probably should read the manual to get a very, very deep understanding of this. But in a very general way, if you want to really clip everything up to minus 2.0 dBs, you go with digital. And then if you are not so preoccupied with that, you might go with analog. This has nothing to do with how it sounds. If it would give an analog feel to the track, this is just in terms of the output ceiling. So I made a mistake in the past that I would go for analog because I wanted a more analog vibe, and it doesn't necessarily give you analog vibe when you choose analog. Okay, so I think that's it for this question. Let me go back here. Yeah. So the next question that I have, I hope this answered the question. The next question that I have is regarding Delay 3. And the Delay 3 is one of the newest plugins that we had in FL Studio. And we had Delay Bank, Delay 2, and now we have Delay 3. So let's go over a little bit of the delay parameters of the Delay 3. So if we go here to delay and reverb, you see that we have Delay Bank, Delay 2, and then now we have Delay 3. By the way, just to let you know what I'm talking about, this is Delay Bank, Delay 3, Delay 2, and Delay 3. So Delay 3 has a more modern vibe to it, you know, and this one's here, Fruity Delay 2, it's a little bit more limited. So there's not too many parameters with this one. And then here, Delay Bank, you have absolutely fully control over everything. You can have several banks. I really like this to make stereo effects because you can have, for instance, one pen left and one pen right like this, and you can have different parameters for each, and this gives you a very, very good control over the feedback and how one side, the right side and the left side, will react in terms of the delay. So I really enjoy this delay bank here. It's a little bit more advanced. Maybe I will do a tutorial on this in the future, but for now, let's just center here with delay 3. And as you can see, it's a really cool plugin, a nice what's the word that I'm looking for? A nice layout. And first of all, we have here the input level. And let me see if I still have something here. Let's go to the step sequencer. Let's bring a sample just just to showcase something. Let's do a snare. And let's bring, well, where did I put this again? I did on the channel 1. Let's close the mixer. So as you can see, this is the delay working. It's just giving echoes of the input signal. So if I lower this down and if I play, then you see that we still have some delay here. So this is kind of if I really want to just leave the dry signal, then I go here and I remove the wetness. Oh, I forgot that I had the other two delays. I was kind of strange why the input was not giving me. Oops, I think I deleted the wrong one. Some technical issues here. I'm sorry. Yes, so that's it. So if I remove the input, then we just have the normal snare. That's what I was expecting, to be honest. So here, basically, you just set the signal that you want to feed the delay. So if I put like halfway, and that's it. Then we have here the delay time. Basically, you can see that these small circles respond to the time. And if we look at the hint panel, we will see that in this position, the time is 4. We can go for 3, 2, 1, and this would be steps. So 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps, and 4. Meaning that if I have 4 steps, what I have here, let me copy this snare. Let's put on channel 2. What I would have here would be something like this. So step 1, 2, 3, 4, and we would have here another snare. So if I remove this and if I play this, and of course this would have to be like this, the volume should go down. Okay, let's try to do that or exemplify that here with the snare with the delay. So as you can see, the gain was lower, or the gain decay or the volume decay was a little bit lower, but in this case it was the same thing here. If I wanted like 3 steps, then what would happen would be something like this. Okay. As you can see, this is the time signature here, or the time delay. Then we can keep tempo sync, meaning that it will sync to the tempo. If I remove this, now we get a different type of knob. In this case, now is milliseconds, as you can see there. Now it's milliseconds. So if you want to keep yourself in the tempo, you just go ahead and select tempo, and you get these pointings, these small circles where you can go up to 16 steps. And yeah, okay. We can also keep the pitch. This, to be honest, I'm not sure too much what's going on. Then we have smoothing, which basically just tell us. Let's remove that. Basically, it's basically a smooth of one delay to the other, and just smooths the delay time of each single reflection or echo of the delay. Then we have here an offset, so we can have this in time for 4, but we can apply a slight offset, and we can go up to 100 or minus 100. So if I do 4 and I do an offset, let's go 100. Basically, it's just giving an offset to the left and right. And we can put one or the other in front. So this one would put the left side in front of the right side. This will put the right side in front of the left side. Or what I mean is like it's giving an offset, so meaning that the right side will play first and then the left side will play. Okay, and this is a nice effect. If you want to create some type of stereo effect, you could maybe add, maybe not so much, but let's see, 20. And you see it automatically kind of makes the snare or the echo stereo. So that could be an option if you want to make your sounds a little bit more stereo. Then we have the delay mode, which could be mono, stereo, ping pong mode, or off. In this case, we just have the normal, the dry signal going in. Ping pong, it will jump like ping pong. It will jump from one channel to the other. Maybe we can... okay, let's do an offset. And you can see now that if I have this in ping pong mode, it now shows for panning. So I can put first on the right and then on the left. Actually, it's the opposite. First on the left and then on the right. And then first I can put first on the right and then on the left. Okay. And if I put stereo, you can see now we get an offset. If I put mono, this will probably do nothing. Actually still does. Shouldn't, but yeah, okay. Okay, let's take this out. And now if I put this with mono, with no stereo, then you see the difference. This is what I was expecting if we were in mono. But yeah, you know, this cancelling of the signals are being summed up and they are being cancelled. I see here another comment from I Love Beats. Welcome to the chat. If you have any questions about music production, just leave them here and I will do my best to try to answer. Okay, then we have the feedback here. And the feedback, let's put this in stereo with a little bit of separation hit there or offset. Then the feedback basically just tells us it's the control over the repetition. So if I want very low level of feedback, as you've seen, it goes a little bit faster. So if I do just I play and stop, just give me like 2 or 3 repetitions. If I put a big level, you see it keeps going. So the feedback basically just feeds the delay. So if you have a big level here, it's feeding the delay, and you have longer times or longer delay times or longer echoes. So basically here the level just controls how much feedback you want. Then we have a cutoff, which controls. So let's put this maybe in at half, and let's do a cutoff, meaning that on the delays or on the echoes, we are going to apply a high pass filter. So let's see. Hope you can hear. What happens is that whenever I play and then stop, what happens is that the delays have a smaller echo, and we can play around with it. No, we can't. It's fixed. So I would have to play again to get a different cutoff there. As you can see, if I go like this with a big cutoff at 1K, the delays or the feedback has a very low end. And then of course you can add some resonance. Let's lower the feedback. Let's stop this. Of course, you can control here the type of filters that we want. In this case, it's, as you can see, it's a low pass. We can go with a high pass. And in this case, let's go maybe for 2K. And we could still do a band pass, meaning that if I load here a filter, or let me open in a new channel so that this has no influence. So what a low cut means is that if we have here low pass, we would have something like this. So this would be the cutoff frequency or the cutoff there that we would, let me take this off. No, they are not. I just wanted to have this one here. Okay, as you can see, if I move this is what the cutoff frequency here represents. Then if I want resonance, this would be the resonance. So as you can see, this peak here is detailed by the resonance there. And I can have none or I can have a big one. And this would be the result here. As you can see, this up curve and then going down with a low pass. If I wanted a high pass, this would be something of those lines like this. This would be a low pass, where a high pass actually, where only the high frequencies go, and the resonance again would be something like that. We would get a high peak there in the cutoff frequency, which would be represented by that. And then we also have a band pass, which would be something like this. And the resonance here in this case would be how sharp it is here. It could be a big wide range, or it could be a very narrow range here of the cutoff of the band pass. Okay, then we have the sample rate. Basically, this can reduce or increase, or not increase, but it can reduce the sample rate to give a more lo-fi vibe. And in this case, I would not recommend to mess too much with the sample rate. I mean, in this case, actually, it sounds good, but let's take off the filter. Let's reduce the sample rate. You can see this is the type of effect that it gives. It kind of makes it sound a little bit lo-fi or distorted because it's reducing the sample rate. Okay. We can also reduce the beat numbers. So we can go up to or down to 2 beats. It's funny because there's no, let's put this maybe at 5. Okay, not that bad, but if it goes to 2, it doesn't have any feedback. As you can see, kind of very sharp sound because it doesn't have too much what's the word, resolution. So you can play around with these two here. Then we have modulation, diffusion, and feedback distortion. This one's here, modulation, just basically just changes the rate of these two things here. We can change the rate of the time, or we can change the rate of the cutoff filter. So if I wanted to have modulation for the cutoff, let's say that I want let's do a band pass, and let's put it at 1K with something like that. Let's say that I want to change the frequency of that. I can go here for the cutoff, and let's put 100%, and let's put a rate of 20 Hertz so that we can hear the effect. As you've seen, it's kind of strange. Let's put it slower. Let's increase the level here. I don't know if you can tell, but it's going up and down. Let's see a less. Yeah, so this would be a lower volume of the rate. And we can also play around with the timing. So let's go something like this. So now it's at 4 and it will go up and down. So it's kind of hard to understand the difference, but basically we are adding some LFO to the timing or the cutoff frequency, and we can add both. Then we have this diffusion, basically just kind of a spreading of the signal. So if I do 100% spread and I do a level of 100%, let's see the result. So it gives us this kind of metallic sound. So if you want some metallic delay, you would probably go with something like this. As you can see, it sounds really cool also. Then we have this feedback distortion, which is basically takes the signal here and applies some distortion. We can have saturation or a limiter, and then we can make it really intense like this. And you can hear a lot of distortion there, or saturation in this case. Let's remove that. And that's pretty much it for this one. Then we have the dry signal. Basically, we can just have the wet signal. Let's add a little bit of saturation so that we can hear the signal there. And or we can just have the dry signal. And we have only one here because there's no delay going out from this one here. And of course, we can change also the tone. Let's make it low. Basically, this is changing the pitch or the not the pitch, but it's making the delay a little bit more darker. And this one is going to put it a little bit brighter. Okay, so I think that's it for this question. It took a little bit of time to answer, but hopefully I answered it correctly. Okay, next up. By the way, thank you guys for the comments, for letting me know that you are watching the stream. The next question is, what is a step sequencer? So a step sequencer is something that it became very prominent in synthesizers and drum machines, the step sequencer, and also in some synths. And then it also became part of the digital audio workstations because it's a very essential part when making music in the DAWs. So let's jump into FL Studio so that I can show you what is a step sequencer. And the step sequencer of FL Studio basically is something called a channel rack. And a step sequencer is if you see, is a sequence of steps where you can program notes into those steps. And as you can see, every single one of these notes here that I can paint with the delay, with the steps in between, every single note here is a step. So if I do just like this is one step, this is the second step, third step, fourth step, fifth step, sixth step, and so on. So if we look at this, it's called channel rack in this case, in case of FL Studio, but this is basically where you can do your step sequencing. So if you want, let's say, let's open with a template. I think there's a minimal one, basic 808. This one here. So if I put, let's do 90 BPMs. If I put a kick and a clap and a kick and a clap, and if I do like fill each 4 steps or maybe 2 steps, This is the step sequencer. This is a programmation of the step sequencer. And if I play now, I can move this one here. And this is a step sequencer of 1, 4, 8, 12, 16 steps. And I could go here and it says pattern length. And I could do, for instance, 16. I could go for 32. And this would allow me to do another pattern like this. For instance, this one I could do something like this. And then let's do fill each 2 steps. And now we have 2 patterns of 16 where we could have different combinations. And basically this is it. You can change the pattern length here of the step sequence, of the sequence that you have here in the channel rack, or you can just leave it empty. And as soon as you put a note here in a zone that is grayed out, it will automatically allow you to place more stuff there. So you can make it larger, make it smaller. You can pretty much change however you want this to be. And if I do this, I will have a 64 length of a pattern. So this is basically where you would make all of your music is on the step sequencer in FL Studio, but this is called channel rack. So this is where I pretty much do everything when it comes to drums and stuff like that and melodies. I could also go, for instance, I could load a piano. This would not be a step sequencer, but in reality it is, but this is where I would draw my notes. Let's do a C minor chord here. Let's do a major 1 there. Let's copy these. Let's bring this down just for... And as you can see, I can move things around and make them sound a little bit more interesting, but basically mimicking the kicks in the step sequencer. Something like that, for instance, could be an example of playing around with the step sequencer. So step sequencer basically is more for like programming drums. You would have a step sequencer in the old drum machines, even in the new one you have. But basically, it's just a sequence of steps that you can program to make your music. And in this case, I would go for the piano roll to make the notes, but you can also play things around here. There's also another way, is using the playlist here. And then instead of having the sounds or the patterns, for instance, I created this pattern, I can drag the pattern around here to the playlist and then do my blocks. I can also take the playlist and work with it as a step sequencer. For instance, I can go here and move these 2 steps, and now I have infinite length of steps that I can play around with. And for instance, I can bring the kick here. And now you see that I have audio instead of a pattern. I can bring the clap there, and let's do the hi-hat. And oops, bring it there. And now I can pretty much do the same thing that I did for the other pattern. I could do it here in the playlist, but I have to drag and drop stuff like this, you know? So select like so, and then drag and drop the clips. Instead of doing it in the pattern, I could also do that. So if I listen now to this, it's pretty much the same as let's go to unsorted, this one here. The difference is the volume. So if I crank this up to 100, so now if I go to the playlist, pretty much the same. So you can do a sequence here. This would also be a step sequence, but of course this is called a playlist. But the main idea here is to understand what a step sequencer is. And in this case is our channel rack, where you can place a sequence of steps and make your patterns, make your grooves, make your notes, make your whatever you want to make. And this would allow you to make the music that you want, either in patterns here or in the audio, with audio clips here in the playlist. So I hope that answered the question. I have here another question. The next one is how to edit vocals. So this is something that I usually, when I work with other artists, with rappers, or when I record my own songs, that's something that I usually like to do, is to align all the vocals with the project, so that or align the vocals so that they sound more professional. And let me show you one of the things that I do. So I have to find here the project that I've worked in the past. Let's see if I have something here to show. Maybe a project that I've done in the past. Let's see. Sorry for this. I can't have everything prepared. I know that I have stuff, but sometimes it's hard to get to it pronto. So let's go, for instance, let me open this one to see if this will give some information. So basically what I do is I take the raw vocals and then I chop every single part of the vocal, and then I move them around to align them either with the beat, or for instance, if I'm doing the verse and I have back vocals, what I do is I try to align the back vocals with the main verse so that they sound as professional as possible. And actually I have a good example here. So let's see. Let me show you in FL Studio. So this is a remix of a song that I did for MC called Zeca from Barcelos. And when I got the vocals, this was the vocal here. As you can see, it's just a normal, if I drag and drop this here and I put it side by side, you will see that, let me do something like this. Yeah, looks like they are correct. So what I usually do is I take all this, as you've seen here, as you can see this wiggly line, I take this out. This usually is breaths or so this of the MC. Some MCs have this higher, some others have this lower. So I like to remove all of those stuff. Then here, for instance, this is some plosives. I like to also remove that. As you've seen, I make a cut and then I move things around like this to try to make the vocals as clean as possible. Then I cut it there also. Another big breath here that I could just remove and make the vocals a little bit more professional, a little bit more polished. Sometimes I also nudge some of the parts. In this case, as you can see here, I think I've moved this around. So this is not exactly, actually it is exactly on the same point. But sometimes I move things around, and as you've seen, everything, this is what I do. I do cuts and then I clean up the vocals. So this is the editing of the verse, for instance. And I go into every single part, I listen to it, and then I cut the vocals in very small steps, as you've seen there. And I move things around, I clean things up, and this is how an edit vocal looks like. So this would be the edit part. Then, for instance, here we have the back vocals. So let's bring this up. And basically what I like to do here is, again, I try to align everything as close as possible. So if I bring this section here, if I move this around, this actually is not a good example. let's see this part here. Yeah, this one here, as you can see. What happens is that if we look at this starting point here, this part here is not aligning with that one there. This part also, this one here is also not aligning, and this one here also not aligning. So what I do, I go here, I cut, and then I move this around like so to try to match the original vocal. And I know this takes a while to do. You know, you have to go through every single vocal here and align every single part. But this at the end will make a very, very big difference when it comes to how the vocals sound. For instance, this part here, everything is aligned, as you can see, as much as possible. Of course, I will not go to cut every single piece of the vocal, but I try to move this around. For instance, if I take this out, this case is okay. It's not a good example. But for instance here, let's see. Yeah, this one, as we can see, has a little bit of misalignment. So what I usually do, I cut it in the starting point, and then I move around until I get something that I like. So this is what I do for vocals, and also I do this for guitars. The other day I was working with a friend of mine. He sent me, or we recorded some projects. Let me show you that very quickly. I think this one here. So you can do this with vocals, with the guitars, and basically with live instruments. And vocal is also instrument. So what I like to do is, whenever I have something like that, I go and I try to make sure that everything is on the correct step, or in the correct point, to make sure that the vocal sounds as best as possible. For instance, in this case here, I was working on a track with a guitar from a friend of mine. So this is how the guitar sounds. And you can see already that I did some cuts because I was trying to make sure that the track was as center as possible. So if I move this around, you see that, for instance, this one here, this starting point should be on the 9th, and it's not. So what I did was I cut it here, like so, like there, and also here. And then I pretty much just moved this around, and then I just did something like that. So I fixed the transition there, but I make sure that the starting point is on the beat, on the downbeat. And that's some of the things that I like to do to make the guitar sound really, really cool. For instance, this one here, I'm sure that if I move this here, you see that the performance was not right on point. And it was, if you just listen to the guitar alone, this would sound nice, would sound cool. But if you start putting drums on top of this, then you have to, you get a little bit of offbeat, and sometimes this can throw off the track. Oops, sorry, where am I? Here. This can throw off the track. So if you listen to this with a metronome, and as you've seen, so it's not really perfect, but if I do this, so now it's on time. And it's these small things that make the can make or break a track. And as you can see, this is a lot of work, but at the end, it's really worth it to make sure that the sound is in the pocket, it's aligned in the grid. And of course, you can always you should always be not like 100% aligned, but you should make sure that it's a little bit more. For instance, this case here, I was not going to cut this one here to move this one around. I just left it because I know that sometimes having these imperfections sound great. And because this is a offbeat, so we would have one beat here or one beat here, another beat here. Because this is a offbeat measure, I left it. But the other ones that are usually on the downbeat, these ones, and if you have stuff like this all in a row, I like to make sure that they are all aligned, as you can see here. And these ones sound really, really cool. So that's it. This is how I align my instruments. And as you can see here at the end, there's a lot of cuts. And this can be a little bit tedious, but after you've done it, you go through it very fast, maybe 20 minutes, and you can finish this. And this makes a very, very big difference when it comes to making sure that your instruments are on point, and it sounds really, really cool. And it can be the difference of being an amateur track or a demo track to a more professional sounding beat. So I think that's it. Next up, I have another cool question here that took me a while to get. After, I don't know, maybe a couple of years, I was not sure how to do undos in FL Studio. It might sound a simple question, but it has something to talk about, I think. So let's jump into FL Studio. So let's say that I'm working with a project and I do something like this, and I want to completely remove all of these with undo. If I do Control Z, it just selects the thing. So I wanted to go back like 4 or 5 Control Zs, but in FL Studio you cannot go to Control Z. Like Control Z does the undo and then the redo, undo and then redo. If we go here to edit, you could do Control Z. Now you see that is redo. So if I do this, I do undo, Control Z, and then Control Z is again to redo. So you go back and forth in undo and redo, undo and redo. If you really want to do undos, you have to do Control, Alt, and Z. So if I do this now, and I do Control Z, now you see Control Alt Z, and as you can tell, I have Control Alt, and now you can really remove everything. So if I go again, and let me put this in beat, in bar. So if I do this, there's another way to do undos in your project. So if you go here, and there's something called current project, which is a folder in your playlist or in your browser. And if we go up here to the history, you will see everything that I've done. And you might go to the undo and Control Z and Control Alt Z to undo everything. Or you can just go here and select these parts. As you can see, everything. You can even go back and go forward. So this is a cool kind of trick, I guess, to understanding a little bit how it works, how to work with your current project history. And you can either do Control Z and Control Alt Z to undo, or you can just go here and understand what are you doing. So if we see here, move clip in the playlist, and I can go even further, like I can go for the mixer and I can move things around. And you see that all of these parameters are undoable. So if I do this and this and this, now I have the reset of the mixer. But if I want to go back, I can just go back into everything, and you can see that everything moves. You have to be careful though. If you do this on parameters, on other plugins, this might not work. For instance, let's go with the L1. And if I go here, if I do this one, in this case, it worked. So if I do Control Z, it moves around. But there are some plugins that this might not work. So you have to be careful, always do Control Z, because this can break your project, and it can undo stuff that you don't want. So be careful to do this. If you really want to be sure, you have to go to current project history and then change here the knobs, or select the things that you want, and then you will have the history changed back and forth. So I think that's it. It's already 7 o'clock. I have another question here, but this one would require a little bit longer. So I will leave this question for the next live stream. And I wanted to thank you for joining the live streams. I see some likes here on the live stream. I wanted to also thank the comments here in the chat. Always nice to let me know that you are watching the live stream. Again, if you have any questions that you want to answer them here in videos, you can leave the questions on my YouTube videos on the comments. You can also leave the questions here in the chat, or you can subscribe to the newsletter that I have a link in the description for, and you can subscribe to the newsletter, and then every Friday or so I will send you an email with a form where you can post your questions, and those questions have higher priority compared with the ones here from the chat or the ones in the comments. And I think that's it, guys. So there will not be any live streams until the end of the year, unfortunately, because I will either be traveling, or it will be Christmas or New Year's. But I will be posting some other content, so the content will still be being posted. I will make sure that I will post not sure if it will be every day, but every other day there will be content for you guys to see here in the channel. So that's it. Thanks for watching. Thank you very much for being part of the live stream. Thanks for all the comments, all the subscriptions, all the support, all the likes. That really helps the channel to grow, and I really appreciate all of your support. That's it. My name is Tiago Duarte, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.